Hey, good morning to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here, Monday now, the 29th of April, 2024. We have just wrapped up our first expedition to the Great Plains to study hail in its natural environment. And it was an interesting 4 days. Came out into what was going to be a big outbreak of tornadoes. Unfortunately, there were fatalities, lots of damage, lots of lives literally uprooted. But this aspect of hail, this hazard of hail, a very expensive part of severe weather, and we're going to continue to forge ahead. We're not done. This is just the first expedition. As we get into May, I plan on coming back out, and the next time around I'm going to be with Greg Nordstrom. Those of you that know Greg, you know how exciting that is going to be. Huge tip of the hat, even though I don't have a hat on, to CJ Morgan for helping me out, our entire back-end team, the people that support us on Patreon, and of course our friends at Fox Weather for helping to get my story out and talk about what we are doing. Of course, the significant tornado outbreak upstaged all of that, and rightfully so. The attention needs to be on those life-threatening tornadoes and the aftermath. But we were here. We did a pretty good job, I think, learned a lot of things. I am going to do a long format podcast episode, the Hail Project podcast, our limited series, probably 5-10 episodes, something like that, over the coming weeks. So the next one is going to be all about what we learned out here, and we'll get some of the people that we work with on, and we shall discuss. So look for that in the coming week or so, maybe less. So let me show you what we got yesterday. And we started off, CJ and I, coming out of Norman, Oklahoma, headed south to try to get to our target area in eastern Texas. We'll get to that. But we came across some damage here in the Ardmore area. This is specifically where that was. And I put the drone up. It's pretty easy to do that these days. Flew it over there to see what the damage path looked like. And you can clearly see from the get-go here, lots of debris strewn about. And that was the first thing we noticed as we drove across the interstate there. You just look out and you see those telltale signs that debris has been lofted and thrown. And some of this is like wood. This is not all sheet metal. You can see closer there. This is wood from this house over here that got hit. And the trees are laid down over here. You can see that very clearly. These are all decapitated, so to speak, pretty efficiently. So a pretty strong tornado came through. That's not much evidence to show what happened farther back. So it's just, weird how all this works. People that survey tornado damage know how this can go. So there's the house. Now there's a little pad back here of concrete with a couple of vehicles on there. Hard to tell if they are damaged. But that's what that looked like up there near Ardmore. I think this is a different perspective of it. And then I turn the drone over to the right. I don't know if anybody was home. Don't know much about it, but we saw it from the interstate. And this just goes to show you. And of course, this happened at night. And that is very unfortunate, very, very frightening, and much more dangerous at night because you don't have the advantage of seeing what's coming. And I'm sure that is just very, very difficult to deal with. But you get an idea of how the trees were flattened and ripped apart. And as the camera pans up here towards the debris field, it's all strewn out several hundred yards. And then, of course, there is Interstate 35 in the distance. Then we kept going, and eventually we came across Marietta, and that was just unbelievable. I want to show you that real quick. Move me out of the way. The video from Marietta, I'm sure you've seen it elsewhere from different sources. Let's turn that volume down. This car right here, and then this one, this Volkswagen, again, that has just got to be, the worst, right? And then here, of course, is the distribution center that was hit, Dollar Tree, very substantial damage. There was about a 15-mile backup on either side, both from recovery efforts going on and then people just looking, because this is extraordinary in terms of it's not every day, right? It is out of the ordinary. It's extraordinary. And, we had some loss of life, unfortunately, that we've heard about. Just a hard time, right? It's a hard time, this severe weather. It's interesting. People chase these storms as a hobby. It is fascinating, but they do have consequences. And that is part of what we're trying to study, the consequence of hail. And yesterday we had an enhanced risk early on. That was our target area, so we left the Norman area here and made our way down and got over into the piney woods. And we had one attempt with this storm that was tornado warned for quite a while. Daniel Shaw, if you follow him on the Twitter there, and I know it's called something else with one of those letters of the alphabet, but it's always Twitter to me. No disrespect intended. But anyway, Daniel saw a tornado farther to the south and west from where we were. He comes up from Australia, by the way, to storm chase and provide reports, and he even renders assistance when he can because he is medically trained. I am not. That's a different breed of people that can do that. Not that I wouldn't if I had to, but Daniel is much more trained than that, believe me. So there's the storm that was coming, and that, my friends, is the signature of hail just on the reflectivity. There are different methods to look at it, the vertically integrated liquid, but this is just the easy way to show you all the hail that's coming our way. That's 5 p.m. on the dot, and then 13 minutes later, lots and lots of lightning, and then there's our different areas of hail within this thunderstorm. It luckily went on to become only severe thunderstorm warned instead of tornado, because that's a problem. And then it finally moves over us just south of Jacksonville, Texas, and we were able to get, pea to marble size. The hail core collapsed in the distance between the two scans from the radar out of Shreveport, like a 6-minute time span. The hail core collapsed, and we didn't get very much hail at all. But I'll show you over here a couple of different perspectives from our on-vehicle hail cams. This is one of them. We are in this parking lot just south of Jacksonville in front of a skating place. I'll show you that because we had a rear-facing camera. So we get set up, and by the way, that's not evening. This is like 5:20. It should be bright sunshine out there, and this is real. That's it's not dimmed down or whatever. That's what it really looked like. It's very ominous. So the storm moves in. You got some lightning there, and it lightens up a little bit. And why, I don't know. That's just the way the cloud thickness is. But we get a lot of wind and rain, a lot of lightning, and then it really lets loose. It's like being in a tropical storm here. See? And you don't see the hail at all because it was very small, and we didn't even get out and measure it. You could just look out the window and see that it was peas and marbles falling, and that was that. Now, the back camera, the rear-facing camera in the parking lot of Skateland, USA, this is what it captured. And watch up here. And again, we really don't have much hail to show you because it's just too small. But watch what happens with these trees as the severe thunderstorm moves in. And when they say on SPC that the threat of wind is part of the hazards, well, this is why. Watch this. The storm moves in, and watch these trees here. They just get blasted. Look at that. Let me go back up. It's kind of like a little downburst there. This is what you mean by a downburst. You get that stabbing of the wind. You see this very often in tropical storms and hurricanes. That downward motion, that's your downburst of wind. Some are stronger than others, obviously. And the hail is there, trust me. It's just very, very small. And that was just really like something else. And then another car pulled into the same parking lot to take refuge. And we waited it out and went on about our way. As we moved back up towards Dallas, we were treated to some incredible mammatus clouds. Not the most vivid I've ever seen, but that's pretty cool up there. These undulating clouds are called mammatus, and that is a telltale sign of instability, turbulence in the atmosphere. You don't want to fly through those, that's for sure. And just a really interesting end and a very positive end to our chase day, intercepting, chasing, whatever you want to call it, trying to capture to the best of our ability hail. So again, I'm going to make a long format podcast where we talk about in much more detail what we learned, what we need to change on the vehicle to make it safer, and how we intend to eventually get the big hail that is tennis, softball, and larger, DVD size as the SPC or some of the WFOs sometimes call it in their warnings. It'll say DVD size. That's big, and we want to be able to capture that. We also want to be able to capture those events where the hail comes down so fast and furious that it covers the ground to sometimes about a foot. Those giant, I don't know, it's got to be a word for those hail downpours. And then also seeing hail in an urban or suburban environment, not always out in the open. And the Jacksonville event yesterday was close to that. Not that we're wishing this on anybody, but if it's going to happen, we need to be there to record it. And we're going to do a lot of that work with these GoPros here. Some of them will be on high frame rate, 240 frames per second. And then we can go back and slow that down in processing and really see how hail does what it does. And eventually start putting experiments up, different household items that we use and so forth, and show people the true inner workings of hail. And then finally, one more note as referencing to the Hail Project podcast. We're going to have other guests coming up as well to talk about research that they are doing. We're going to talk to some people that have dealt with hail damage and how they handled the claims. Some of that, they may break out the tissues. You know who you are. It's very anxiety filled when you deal with, it's a very, very tough thing when you have damage to your property. So we're going to have somebody to come on and talk about that too. He can handle it, although he's close to his breaking point after almost three events, including his vehicles. We'll get there. All right, so it's called the Hail Project. It's one of our projects here at HurricaneTrack, our crowd-funded, community-supported weather world, mostly focused on hurricanes, as you know. And of course, I'm going to be doing my hurricane update today. It's Monday. It's time to do it. But I appreciate you guys tuning in over the last few days and seeing what this is all about. We're just at the beginning of it. Imagine what we're going to be able to do with this over the coming years. And yes, I said years. We're going to be in this for the long haul as we work to study this very damaging aspect of severe weather. All right, from all of us at HurricaneTrack, we do appreciate you tuning in and watching and supporting what we're doing. I'll talk to you next on the Hurricane Update here on Monday. And then we'll see you out here on the plains, I don't know, probably sometime later in May. Again, thanks for watching. I'm Mark Sudduth. See you next time.